Welcome back to 843 TV. I'm now joined by the Mayor of Beaufort, Mr. Billy Keyserling. Billy, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Will. Happy to be here.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
So now I know that you've got a lot on your plate. In 2016, you're dealing with issues like economic growth, offshore oil exploration, the Boundary Street project, and parking. Why do you think that downtown parking seems to get people so riled up?
Well, I think that we have a culture where we've been accustomed to thinking that a good parking space, or the only parking space, is at the front door of where we want to go. Mm-hmm. I would argue, with due respect to those who say we have a problem, that we have a parking opportunity.
Okay.
If you could find a parking space anywhere you wanted to go downtown, then people wouldn't be proving the value of the goods and services, the galleries, the restaurants, the retail that we have. The fact is that they're going so strong, there is a demand to park, and people want to park out front. Mm-hmm. This issue has been around since, I believe, the first Beaufort Gazette story was 1938. And I believe that in 2038 it will be part of the conversation.
Sure.
But it's a good conversation because it's really a good conversation because it's about growth and success.
Right.
We have a successful downtown, and therefore people want to go and they want to shop, and they have to begin to adjust to realize that just like when they go to a big box retail, they're going to have to walk
right.
a couple of feet, 100 feet, a block, or two blocks. But the value in our downtown, in our shops, our galleries, our restaurants is there. Yeah. So a parking problem is really a good thing, mm-hmm. but it's going to always be, as we grow, it's really a tool for growth. It allows more businesses to come downtown, businesses to be more successful, and not just the retail, but to get more office back downtown, mm-hmm. and of course to get residential. So managed parking in the right way is really a tool to accommodate the growth
right.
that we need for our downtown to remain vibrant.
Now, there was a special task force formed last year, mm-hmm. Focused on parking. From your experience, and as someone who grew up in Beaufort, did you agree with their findings?
First of all, I didn't grow up in Beaufort.
Oh, you didn't?
I'm still growing up in Beaufort.
That's right.
The task force, actually, when they formed, a number of people said, why are we doing this again? You're not going to listen to us. And I think many were surprised that we implemented just about everything they recommended. It was a studious group, it was across the section group, it was shoppers, it was retail owners, it was restaurant owners, it was people who have employees, where employees tend to be one of the most difficult challenges. Right. How do we provide them safe mm-hmm. parking within distance to work? But the task force did such a good job that, as opposed to having parking come up and then solve it, then come up and solve it, mm-hmm. we've actually transformed that into an ongoing parking advisory committee that will be working with our parking manager, Linda Roper, and with SP Plus, so that we will not wait for problems to pile up. We will solve them as we move forward.
Right. Okay. Being proactive rather than reactive.
Getting ahead of the ball.
Right.
If you realize it's about growth, and if you realize it's about growing the downtown, we want infill and redevelopment. Mm-hmm. So some of the private lots could better be used for office buildings, for residential on the top, for retail below, but you can't. It's difficult to fill in and give up a parking lot unless you know there are other parking
right.
solutions.
Right.
If, in fact, every single vacant lot that is now used for 1 car, 2 cars, 3 cars, 4 cars, 5 cars, had another building on it, it would create more opportunity for those who want to do business in the greater downtown area. But we have to, as the city manager said, we've lost 140 spaces. What we need to do is to begin to offset
right.
those spaces and then to encourage the infill and the redevelopment.
Okay. Now, I've heard some banter since I've lived here about a parking garage. Mm-hmm. And if some sort of parking garage is at least part of the solution, how do we go about making that happen?
It is part of a solution.
Okay.
But it's part of a long-term solution.
Right.
At the cost of $16 to $20,000 a space, a small city of 13,000 moderate to low income people are not going to be able to just up and build a parking garage.
Is that the cost?
That's the estimated cost. So we're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of $16 million, a city with an $18 million budget.
Right.
Where does the money come from?
Yeah.
It could fall from the sky. We thought there may be a capital sales tax. If the county tries that, we'll put that on the list as well. But also on the list would be to remove the parking from the marina parking lot, or the majority of it, to create more open space and room for more outdoor activities, better bathrooms, a new marina store, to consolidate and use that space. That would then mean an additional 175 spaces we would need. So even to create a park, we need to find more parking. So it's on the horizon. I think the short term is to better manage what we have, to add incrementally additional spaces. Linda Roper talked about the 75 along on Carteret Street. It's really up to 91, but the building itself will require, once it's alive again, will require some parking.
Right.
There's a proposal to restripe the marina parking lot, which is one of the principal places where employees can park.
Right.
And we could pick up an additional number of spaces. So I think the incremental approach is to continue the flat lot approach, remembering that they have to be landscaped, that they have to be have pervious surfaces, so we don't create stormwater, so that we don't have sand running into our drainage system. So the short term will be to use opportunities. Meanwhile, we are bringing on a consultant who, with no obligation from the city, is going to take a deep look at the overall parking at particular sites that make sense, and then to perhaps give us a real number rather than our guesstimates of what a garage would cost. The bottom line is you can never charge people an amount to park that would pay for the cost of that space.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to find another source of money using the revenues to maintain and operate the facility.
Yeah.
So I'm not holding my breath on that.
Right.
I think that certainly since I've been mayor, or since I was on city council, before that, the public has become more open to a garage. There was strong opposition early when we talked about, replacing parking to make the park, enhance the park and make it active for water sports and other activities. All of a sudden people said, well, maybe a garage wouldn't be
that bad.
Wouldn't be a bad thing. But whenever you get to the garage, once you deal with the question of money, siding is going to be very important because it's going to have to fit.
Yeah.
And fitting in a 500-car garage or a 400-car garage in a city with relatively small buildings in a historic landmark district is no small feat.
No, it's not.
But it's been done. It can be done. So let's start with what's the need, where are the potential locations, what is the cost, and then look for the long-term solution to a garage.
Well, lots to think about, and lots going into this discussion more than just frustration about not finding a parking space in downtown Beaufort. Billy, thank you very much for joining us today.
It's a long issue about growth.
Yeah.
How do we grow our city? And parking has to be an incremental part of that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us and sharing your insights.
Always.
And thank you for watching 843 TV, where communities come to speak.